sort of like these partnership organizations,
Yeah.
a lot of it doesn't really work. So like, what are the alternative approaches are you thinking of in terms of customer
All right, cool.
acquisition?
So what we've seen basically in the market is that besides accounting solutions having this financial literacy barrier, is that we've seen that people have peculiar needs that don't necessarily need a whole accounting suite. So that's why when we're problem IDing, we'll see people that actually use accounting softwares that could invoice, but they'll actually have another app specifically for invoicing. So they felt that was more controlled. Oh, when I want to see all my invoices, I could just go here. So maybe most of these channels haven't worked for some of these guys because of their approach and value offering to these SMEs. From what we've seen and our interactions with the alumni networks of these institutions is worked perfectly for us. And the chat WhatsApp group-based trainings we intend to do has a huge uptake here. People are doing all sorts of trainings via WhatsApp group, and we really intend to take advantage of that to push both financial literacy and the uptake of our solution. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yemi and Flex Finance. How many of you own small businesses here? Or a side hustle? I know everyone has a side hustle. You wouldn't be a Nigerian if you didn't. Okay, so I hope you'll be downloading Flex after that presentation. Great. All right, so next up we have Odiaka. He is going to be pitching you a company called Shores.
Like JC. Fine. Hi, can you hear me? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Odiaka. I'm presenting Shores enables immigrants invest at home. Nigeria is currently facing severe capital deficits across various sectors of the economy. 65% of our businesses can only access 4% of bank loans. And these are businesses they depend on to feed their families, send their kids to school, and basically exist. And most of them will fail within the next 5 years because they can't access funding. The government is not spared as well. Nigerian government can't even fund its budget. We're spending 50% of our revenues servicing external debts, which is way above the West African average of 17%. Now, government is even charging us 50 naira for POSUs. That's how bad it is now. Meanwhile, Nigerians living outside our shores, no pun intended, have excess capital, which they send home annually, looking for high impact, high returns investments, but 4 out of 5 either have been duped or know someone who has. So what's the solution? Shores. With Shores, we're offering an investment platform that connects these Nigerians outside the country to verified, high-quality socioeconomic investment opportunities in Nigeria in a safe and transparent manner, in a way that benefits the local economy and through an easy-to-use mobile app. The amount of money sent home annually for investments has been increasing over the years. So it's less than $1 billion in 2004. It exceeded $8 billion last year and is expected to exceed $11 billion within the next 4 years. And experts have said there's still a huge pile of cash waiting for a private-led structured investment platform for the money to come in. And we've actually had a use case recently where some Nigerians were forced to return home from another African country, unplanned, because they were facing challenges there from South Africa. And imagine if they came in without having investments at home to fall back on. That would have been terrible for many of them. This market is huge. $24 billion was sent last year alone, 30% of which went to investments, and the US, UK, Canada accounted for more than 50% of this. So how does Shores plan to solve this for them in a transparent manner? We offer them the opportunities On an easy-to-use app, they can see the impact that it will have on the businesses they invest in locally. They can invest at the click of a button and get monthly impact reports. For new users, we welcome them, create a risk profile depending on what's important to them, be it risk or returns or impact, and then guide them through the process for those who haven't started investing before. So how do we make money so we don't fail within the first 5 years? We actually charge a small commission on their transactions, which together with their annual custodial fees exceeds revenues of $100 million. How do we plan to capture this market? Nigerians move in clusters. They have tribe-based, so even if you're a Yoruba person, you'll most likely associate with Yoruba people outside the country. And when they start using it through the network effect, other people start using it as well. Nigerians pray a lot, no matter the country where they are, so we'll be targeting them in churches and mosques, and through social media, especially for the younger generation. And we'll be meeting them through road shows as well to meet and greet them. This space is quite competitive, but many of them don't use the options available to them where they live because those guys don't speak to them in a language they understand, or they don't feel the impact of what they're doing with those investments. So we also plan to replace the non-expert advice given to them by family and friends that they've relied on over the years and through which they've lost a lot of money, which they can't recover. So we'll offer them the advantages of anonymity, where they can invest without their family and friends knowing what they do. In fact, nowadays, from our research we did over the last few months, you see many of them saying we don't want our village people to know what we're doing, so please, just keep it private. So we do that with pre-vetted options with experts and allow them to do impact investments. So where do we plan to be? Within this quarter, we'll be finishing out our product, sign our MOU with our investment partner, which we're working on now. And by next year, we hope to have completed 400 signed MOUs with professional associations in the US, UK, and Canada. And within the next 2 years, position ourselves to expand to other countries with high incidence of immigration and remittances back home. So once again, with Shores, we hope to land and grow home investments through a trusted platform, one person at a time, to create more vibrant economies at home. Thank you.
Great job. So what I heard throughout this presentation was trust, trust, trust. Tell us how you plan to ensure that the opportunities on the platform are well vetted through the investment network that you mentioned. Would love to hear about how we can look at Shores as the premier investment platform in Nigeria.
One of the ways we plan to do that is the investment partner we've chosen is part of a top 10 in trades on the stock exchange, and they're well-known cardinal stone. So easy to verify this investment company and to get expert advice from them. That's a major way. And then the moment people start using it and they see that they're getting the returns that we promised, we know that as they spread the word, other people will trust.
And piggybacking on Ashley's question, you also mentioned that you're going to measure the impact of some opportunities that align with impact investment thesis. So are you going to give the ability for the investors abroad to select companies based on certain impact thesis? And what metrics are you yourself to use to measure that impact and follow up on the investments and how they're performing?
Actually, when they're about to invest, you tend to see okay, this is what the money is planned to be used for. They can actually choose based on what's important to them. So if they want to fund women entrepreneurs, for example, or just a small SME, as little as your local booker, they can choose based on those metrics, depending on what's important to them. And over time, we actually have a sheet that we use to measure the impact as well for them. So over the months, we give them monthly updates on, oh, fine, this number of workers have been hired, this number of women has been maintained in this business. Whatever is important to them at the point of sign-up is what we'll share with them over the time.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. In terms of investors, if I'm putting money in, how liquid is that investment? So is there a secondary market where if I need to get money out quickly, someone else can buy my stake in that investment? Or is it is there a minimum term that someone has to invest capital for?
Pardon? I didn't get the last part. Sorry.
So is there a limited term or a prescribed term that someone has to hold money in the platform, or can they sell it to a secondary investor?
Usually it's tenured, and if you want to leave within that period, you can. There might be a small fee for that, for withdrawing before time, but we allow that to happen.
Okay,
Yes.
and then second question on the brokerage fee, the 1.5%, just to make sure I understand, is that money in or is that on the assets under management? So if I move money from one investment to another, is there an additional fee that you charge to move the money? Or is it fixed at 1.5%, I assume, per annum of assets under management?
Actually, it's at the point of investment.
Okay.
If you are moving to another investment,
Then there's an additional fee.
Slight charge
Got
for
it.
that.
Okay, thanks.
So my question is back to the investment opportunities. So you mentioned a partner, but I also saw sort of things like investing in SMEs. I think my biggest concern is sort of like, how do you verify sort of like SME-based investments? And then another thing that has to be considered as well is if you invest in Carrywise and Carrywise says, okay, we're going to give you, Carrywise or PiggyVest, they give you 15% per annum. When you take into account inflation that is between 12 to 13%, the dollarized return is something around 2%, right? So for someone in the US, it's still better to buy like an SP 500 index. So if it's not very financially savvy to buy treasury bills as someone that is based outside of Nigeria, and you also have challenges with sort of verifying SMEs. So how do you find the best investment opportunities?
verify the SMEs. We actually have a due diligence sheet, and we'll be and working with a web development firm, and EB has experience with SMEs and working with EDCs. Thank you, ma'am.
Odiaka, for that. I'm sure a lot of you are planning to move to Canada. So
Because they don't have change. Ah, great. Means I'm not alone. Right now, I'm actually battling a 27,000 naira with GDP. Right. So, basically, we see these problems every day around us. But what about the small business that they don't even have access to POS because it's expensive? These folks don't have access to a digital economy and hence no access to financial services such as insurance, loans, and whatnot. What if there was a way to provide that solution to individuals and businesses in a much more cheaper, faster, and secure way? Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Snap. Snap is an integrated payment solution that allows you to make cashless transactions basically by scanning a QR code. All right, let's quickly talk about the market. We can see here that cash is still king in Nigeria. And there's a reason for that because there's so much inefficiencies in the system, which is why people still have to mix dough with cash. But we can also see here a rise in electronic payments, which is great. Another thing is also like we have the smartphone adoption, currently at 53 million as of last year. All right, so if you look at that and how do we come about our market, we see here that cash transactions as of last year, 6.5 trillion. And we corner the Lagos market, and that is 36% of that, and that gives you 2.3 trillion. Our goal over the next 5 years is to capture 15% of that market at about 345 billion. All right, let's talk about how Snap works. You download the app, add your banking sources, your cards, your accounts, and just basically snap QR codes on the go. Easy and way. Very fast, secure, and quite simple. What is our business model? We take a small percentage for each transactions from the customer. And for us, over the next 5 years, like I said, we're projecting our revenues at 10.3 billion. All right, who are the people in this space? So we have POS, we have cash, and yes, we have Snap. Let's continue. All right, so Snap is affordable and convenient. Okay, 1 second. Getting. Okay. Thank you. All right, we're back. Let's continue real quick. Right. So cash is expensive and it's very risky. POS, there are a lot of charges and it had the issues as well. USSD on its own also have its own challenges as well. And because they all operate on the same infrastructure, Snap has its own value chain infrastructure that we're building up from scratch to make these transactions very seamless. Right, what is our competitive advantage? Snap is cheap, easy to use, simple and fast. And one of the things we believe that we want merchants and businesses as a whole to develop. And we're incentivizing these merchants to use Snap. And yes, we're proud on instant settlements. And good thing, Snap can be interoperable through third-party APIs to games, subscriptions, and more. Why QR codes? We believe the use case approach is very critical in unlocking this opportunity. As you can all see here, we have QR codes tagged on us. And this is some of the use cases that people are beginning to use. And I'm sure with all of you, you have a flyer of the Snap QR code that you guys can try out and join our waiting list. So these are the use cases that can make sense for QR codes to get adopted. Currently, right now, we're piloting with 3 institutions: a hospital, a church, and a restaurant. And these people have throes of cash going through their system, and they want to digitize this cash. And another thing also we're looking at are these partnerships. And yes, social media. What is our roadmap? Towards the end of the year, we keep driving our partnerships. Currently, we've secured one with a bank, and just have our regulations covered. And yes, like I mentioned, we're piloting with 3 institutions. Early next year, we'll launch a mobile app in a public space because currently we're in private beta. And by Q2, we'll basically expand more product offerings such as insurance. And Q3 2020, our goal is to have processed 150 million naira. This is our team. Fun facts, 3 things. 1, we're innovators. We're solid engineers. 2, we love solving big problems. Ben built a loan origination app that was used to process 16 billion naira for SMEs, while I built a charging station on wheels, and I have a patent for that. And yeah, these problems are around us. Someone needs to solve it. I believe we can do that. All right, this is our future. Our goal at Snap is to connect businesses and individuals to the economy, the digital one. And basically, we believe by that, doing that, we create digital footprints. We give these people access to financial services and overall financial inclusion. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much. That was great. My question's around customer acquisition, but not just customers as in users like myself, or who's a shopper, but also around merchants, where the changing behavior is really hard. And if you look at a lot of merchants, it's almost a two-sided marketplace where a merchant won't see the value until there are lots of users, and users don't see the value until there are lots of merchants. What is your strategy around acquisition?
Great question. So one of the things and these are the learners we're currently having, the hospital we're speaking with right now, they process about 5 million naira in cash every single week. So they collect cash, and actually the fun fact is somebody is collecting the cash for them and charging them 6%. These people are looking for solutions to solve that because they're losing money. So currently right now, they're currently piloting Snap, and currently we charge them 0.6%. And so far, we've basically done about it, and I wouldn't really mention the revenues here, but we're kind of making strides on that. So those are one of the use cases where a lot of cash is being involved, and we're kind of digitizing that for them. And that's one side. And I mentioned some of the things around competitive advantages, merchant incentives. We believe if we give more value to the merchants, basically we can, so for example, let me give you a fun fact. You go to a place, let's say you want to get your passport, and the only thing they accept is QR codes. You would do that. So those are the things, values that we believe that we can give to merchants and say, okay, this is very easy for you to use, saves you time, and you can then pass that value on to the customer. So eventually, there's a win in that.
Great, thanks. And then the second question is around the type of merchant that this would be relevant for. So what I've seen in other markets with a similar type of business model is that it makes sense with a single point of sale. When you have multiple points of sale, it's a static QR code. And typically the message that confirms the payment's been made goes to someone's phone. So the person at the one point of sale has to have a phone that correlates with the payment notification. Because it's not integrated to the point of sale terminal, it's integrated to a phone, right? In terms of notifying the merchant the payment's been made.
Okay.
So have you taken that into terms of your total addressable market of the type of retailer this would be relevant for?
Yeah, we're currently also, good question, thanks for that. We're also currently doing some learnings with the restaurants. So these restaurants have like different cashiers around them. So each of these cashiers will have a paired account. So anytime a payment is made, they get validation. And obviously everything is pulled back to the main accounts. So these are the ways we've been able to identify, how best for instant settlement and instant validation of payment is done on the spot without having to say, hey, let me call my manager to confirm this. So we've been able to learn from that.
Great job,
Thanks.
first and foremost. A clarifying question on your competitive advantage. I think many have tried to launch similar businesses in Nigeria, in the continent at large. MasterCard, for example, or EcoBank. How do you know why the solutions have not been successful, and how is this one, in your mind, going to be different and really succeed in this market? What have you learned from those other experiences?
Great. So one of the things we've learned I was basically speaking with the product manager at Pay with Capture, and we just wanted to learn why they didn't push forward. I think it's basically about the blitz and how they went into the market to launch these products and not really understanding like the nuances around making sure that this is sticky. And the thing also happens with, there's another solution around NFC, but that's on the side. So one of the things we've learned from that is incentivizing merchants. These folks incentivize the customer, but there was no value for the merchants from this, so they dropped it. And yes, there were other things around costs and efficiencies. And one of the things we've done is we're not relying on the existing channels. We're building our own architecture to make payments seamless.
So if you were to think through the one thing that could make this fail in the next 12 months, what would that be? And what are you doing today to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah. So I think one thing that will make that fail is if we don't move fast. And right now, we are already talking to engineers, thought leaders that will join on the team, basically advising us. Yes, we have the team right now to build out the app, but yes, we need to scale the app. So those are the things that are currently on our mind.
So my question is still back on sort of market and customer acquisition. You talked about merchant incentives, but you didn't necessarily specify what you meant by merchant incentives. Can you sort of like paint the picture for us?
Merchant incentives, great. So one of the things we've noticed from the existing system is for every transaction, the merchants bear the cost. And we think sometimes it's unfair because these businesses, they're basically living on like making sales. So one of the things is to incentivize these merchants by having a shared cost with the customer. Customers basically want instant value. Yes, I know that personally myself, I'm able to take or pay a percentage just to make sure this transaction is successful. And these are the things that we are basically looking out for. So instead of charging the merchants the whole fee, we have a shared space in part of our transaction charge to make sure that the customer also kind of takes care of that, but so far they can validate instant payments. Hope that answers that.
And then one last question from MasterCard Foundation. If you were to walk away with the $100,000 today, what will you use that money for?
Right, if we walk away with $100K right now, we'll accelerate our product and launch sooner. That is what we'll do.
All right, thank you, Shay, for fixing the POS problem. I'm sure we're all looking forward to using Snap. So you guys are doing really well. We have just 2 more companies. Next up is Adeola, who we call Addy. Addy is going to be pitching a company called Toju.
Yeah, thanks. No, it's just... Hi, everyone. Let's get started. My name is Adeola. I'm the co-founder of Toju, and Toju is a record management platform for local savings clubs. So what if I told you that the so-called unbanked aren't actually unbanked, but rather they just bank differently? While a select few of us rely on bank branches, ATM machines, and USD shortcodes, the vast majority of Nigerians make use of a different kind of banking service, one that's been existing even before the colonial times. It involves an agent going door to door, collecting savings or deposits from individuals, and fulfilling withdrawals at the end of the month. Some of them even go as far as extending loans. Unfortunately, they provide all of these services on pen and paper. As you can imagine, errors occur frequently. Data retrieval is a nightmare. Reconciliation takes an average of 90 minutes for 100 customers every single day. And because all of their customers are withdrawing at the same time at the end of the month, they simply cannot fulfill their customers' demands for loans. We came up with an easy-to-use solution, a mobile application that records customer savings information. This saves them tons of time. We also studied their consumer data, the savings behavior, and based off of that information, we lend to the Azure agent so that they can lend to their customer. For our market validation, we look at the savings habit of adults within Nigeria. Within the year 2016 and 2018, the percentage of adults saving within banks have reduced by 2.4%, while the percentage of adults saving in informal institutions has increased by a whopping 11.3%. We estimate there are over 880,000 Azure agents in the country. 704K serve the informal sector, and we picked out the top 10 commercial states, and that will be our beachhead markets. We created an easy-to-use solution. Basically, all you're doing is tapping a customer's name to save. So the agent goes about, taps customer's name to record savings for that day. Alternatively, every customer has a unique QR code for factual retrieval of their customer information rather than going through a long list. Now, because all of the information is now digitized, reconciliation is now automatic. So that 90 minutes they spend a day, completely eliminated. Our business model is a subscription-based one. We charge 2,000 naira for our basic plan. We charge 5,000 naira for our premium plan, which is better suited for microfinance institutions. Now, typically, the microfinance institutions are a slightly more sophisticated version of the Azure. Basically, they provide more services like fixed deposits and other services like that. Within a short period of time, we intend to start giving loans, and that's going to skyrocket our income. Our revenue potential is around 17 billion naira. This is purely from subscription fees. By the time we start kicking in loans, it's going to be astronomical. Our competitive advantage, we give loans through our Azure agents. We're not working with our own agents, which makes us highly scalable. We take a mobile-first approach. We also enable offline synchronization, which makes perfect sense, and we're also affordable. Our market adoption strategy. At the moment, we currently have 2 MOUs with 2 organizations that have a combined database of 50,000 Azure agents. Our current traction, within 6 weeks of launching, we've onboarded 5 Azure agents, some of which are already paying. We have a massive database of close to 2,000 micro SMEs, which are just from these 5 Azure agents. We have a partnership with Fintech, which is going to be our lending partner. For the next 6 to 10 months, we are just interested in onboarding as many Azure agents as possible from funnels we've actually established. And we want to study all of that consumer data before we actually start giving loans. Subsequently, we intend to extend to other kinds of cooperatives, and by Q3 2022, we intend to expand internationally, because Azure is not just unique in Nigeria, it cuts across the whole of West Africa, Ghana, Benin Republic, and Togo, and the rest. Our team, my co-founder is a software developer. He also co-founded a microfinance institution, and he has massive amount of knowledge in building financial services products. Myself, I co-founded a leading edtech platform, and currently I'm taking a course in data science and machine learning at university. And thank you very much. Toju is digitizing the banks for the unbanked.
Thanks very much for the pitch. So I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
Do you charge only the Azure agent, or do you charge all of the customers in the saving circle?
No, we just charge the Azure agents.
Okay. And I noticed you mentioned QR codes for the users in the saving circle.
Yeah.
I'm curious about sort of like how that would
Okay,
work.
so basically, the question is asked is, where does the QR come in? Yeah, so what happens is that we created a unique QR code for each of their customers. Now, typically, the average number of customers that your agents have is around 150 people. So rather than go through a long list just looking for in an individual, we could have a unique QR code which can be pasted at the back of the booklets. So once the agent comes in, just scans the QR and it brings out the customer's data and you're saving, because we're really optimizing that savings time frame. Yeah.
So you print a book for the...
Yeah, the agents already, as we speak, the customers, the micro enterprises, they usually have a small booklet where they also record their information.
Yeah. Got it, okay.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you're already working with 5 Agile agents.
Thank you.
It would be great to hear what you've learned from them transacting and how that's influenced your product design.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good question. So currently, we have transactional data worth over 6 million naira within the past 6 weeks. And this has been from about 10,000 transactions from 2,000 micro enterprises. And basically, what we're trying to understand is all of these saving habits, the ones that are increasing, the ones that are not saving consistently. And some of the things we have also discovered is, when it comes to KYC, these people are actually lacking behind because you find things like nicknames rather than actual names. And there's so much going on in that informal sector. But it's really interesting, actually.
I have a quick question on loans. You said you have a lending partner. How does that work? Is that loans to the agents, loans to the savers, and what kind of revenue model do you have linked to that?
So the question you asked is, how does the loan works? Who are we interested in loaning directly? So at the moment, we're interested in actually loaning the agents so that they can loan to their customers. Right now, we're not customer-facing, because the benefits of actually customer-facing, we currently have is direct access to the customers. We have their contact details, their saving behavior. We currently have that. We loan to the agents. However, we're actually in talks with people at Mines, and they are interested in actually trickling that down to the actual customers.
Thank you. A couple of questions.
Yeah.
First, you mentioned that a potential partner for you will be microfinance institutions.
Yes.
Down the line. Are you planning on allowing for this app to integrate with their core banking system? Because we've seen usually in the digitization of banks that that's a core necessity. Otherwise, apps end up replicating what they might already be tracking internally. So is there a reconciliation there so that you can see the progression of savings for each customer from their core banking system? And then the second question is around behavior change. What are you learning from the Susu collectors in terms of how easy it will be for them to switch from pen to paper to the digital app?
Okay, you might have to repeat your second question, but let me just get the first one. The first question is, are we interested in actually integrating with their existing applications?
No, with the core banking systems of the MFIs. Of the microfinance institutions as a
Okay,
customer.
so the microfinance institutions are not microfinance banks. So what you actually find out is that they are actually running manually. Right? So we are just onboarding them into our digital platform. They are literally running on pen and paper.
Okay. And what have you learned in terms of behavior change for the Susu collectors?
Yeah, so as you guys are aware, this was a pre-idea program. So we've actually not built our machine learning algorithm. And basically, we just have tons of data, and we're still trying to make some sense out of it. So that's going to be happening within the first 3 to 6 months.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adi. Thank you, Team Toju. And thank you, everyone. You're all doing very well, as I said. So we're now coming up to the last pitch of the day. Samson is going to be doing the pitch. Samson actually moved from Yola to do this program. He's been here for 5 months doing Company Builder. Have you been home? He hasn't been home once. So Samson's going to come tell you. Is your family here? Okay. Yeah, he's going to come talk about Bankai.
Thank you. Okay. Hi guys, my name is Samson. I'm the co-founder of Bankai. So what's the longest you've had to travel to get access to cash or a bank or an ATM or financial transaction? Maybe 5 minutes, 10, 30 minutes. Some people took 3 hours just to get to a branch where I used to work to do transactions. But the sad part of their story was after they arrived, they still had to join a queue before they could be attended to. Now, this is the sad reality for you, for me, and millions of other Nigerians who are underbanked and underserved because of a lack of financial access points. Nigeria is still a cash-based economy. We use cash every single day. We use cash for transportation, we pay cash for feeding, pay cash for healthcare. So we always have cause to look for access points to get cash from. On the other hand, we have small businesses that we spend this cash on who have a hard time depositing this cash in a way that is safe, efficient, and affordable. So what they do typically is just put the cash in the bag and maybe give somebody and be like, okay, take it to the bank. They do that multiple times during the course of business. This is not safe. It's inefficient because if the person gets to the bank and there's a queue, he has to wait, so shop operations for that day shut down. It's expensive if they have to do cash in transit using an armored truck. Typically, one trip costs around 26,000 naira for just one trip, regardless of the amount. So it's not all doom and gloom. Banker is a solution. So Banker is a platform that aims to connect individuals and businesses who want to withdraw cash with other individuals and businesses who want to deposit cash, or vice versa. And we do it within a safe space. Why Bankai? We noticed that cash withdrawals are not going down. As a matter of fact, over the last 3 years, withdrawal volumes have been going up. From 2016, 5.6 trillion naira, to 2017, 7.5. Last year, we went through 8.3 trillion naira. This year, we're on course to hit 10 trillion naira in cash withdrawals alone. Already, small businesses offer cash back to their customers, regular customers, to try and drive down the volume of cash they have holding at their till. And a very funny study carried out by FINA called Awareness lets us know that you're always within 5 minutes of a small store, 10 minutes of a pharmacy, but it will take you anything from 30 minutes upwards to get to a bank or an ATM and cost you between 50 to 100 naira for a one-way trip. We also looked at the size of the market. So last year, mobile money agents did around 87 million transactions. We want to onboard SMEs. There are around 73,000 SMEs in Nigeria, but we want retail, we want food and hospitality, around 19,200 stores, with the capacity to do around 7 transactions per day per store. So it gives us a pool of around 38.4 million transactions that Bankai can easily access and tap into. So this is our product. So you simply initiate your transaction request, withdrawal or deposit. The banker will match you with somebody that has a complementary transaction. You accept or decline to complete the transaction, and then you rate it and we log it. So from a potential of around 38.4 million transactions, we aim to charge 20 naira per transaction. So for a match, that's 14 naira. And it gives us projected revenues of around 1.5 billion naira per year, or 4.2 million USD. Presently, we connect institutional users, mobile money to retail stores. We went to mobile money because they have structured cash-in, cash-out transaction already. So they need to rebalance their float from time to time. So it's not difficult for them to understand the value that we add to their businesses. We are in talks with the retail chain to manage their liquidity to provide the supply side so that we can easily give this supply to the mobile money operators. Roadmap. So currently, institutional users, stores to MMOs, we're still validating the idea, we're gathering data. Quarter four next year, we hope to add individual users. This will give us an additional layer of liquidity, and it means that individual users can draw from MMOs on one side and retail stores on the other side. Quarter four of 2021, we expect network effects to have kicked in by then, multiple users, multiple layers of liquidity, and the dream of banking never to be more than 5 minutes away from a financial access point. So where do we sit? If you make it to your bank or your bank ATM, your transactions are largely free, but probably it's cost you convenience or cost you something to transport yourself there. Mobile money agents are also affordable, but they're fixed, they don't move. If you make it to another bank, they will charge you a flat fee per transaction. Cash for transfer is just people that take advantage of gaps, and they just get a POS, and you do a transfer to them, they give you cash. They can charge you up to 10% per transaction. BankEye sits in a very sweet spot. We're affordable, we're accessible. This is the team. So I'm Samson. I have a background in retail banking operations. I worked with two FIs for more than 10 years. Olamide is the co-founder. He's in charge of technology. He's been in tech for 13 years. He's built tech and other ventures, including the Fintech, and run them successfully for the past 7 years. Yonju is in charge of operations. He's a financial inclusions expert, and he works with Telco. So why should you join the queue when you can easily let me bank you while you bank me? Thank you very much.
Thank you, that was great. Quick question, and I'm not sure about the regulatory environment here. Where would this place you from a regulatory perspective? Do you need to be regulated in any way whatsoever?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Do you need to be regulated? Would a regulator want to regulate the business that you're operating?
Presently, as we operate, since we just connect, it's something that already exists. So we're just sending it to where the liquidity is. You're exchanging digital value in exchange for physical cash. So regulations do not really come up. And since we're riding on the backbone of mobile money operators, they have licenses already. Yes, so that pretty much covers us for now.
Great job, Samson. I have a very basic question. Thinking about safety and security when we're talking about integrating individuals into the marketplace, how do you ensure that this is not a thief's wildest dreams, just having an idea of cash points all around him or her?
For security, already these are transactions that are basically microtransactions. Typically, a transaction that's based on cashback is within 7,000, 10,000 naira. It's a type of transaction that you already do, customers are already accustomed to, and because
100 million bank branches because I need cash, you have cash, banker can connect the two of us together, and then we can do our transaction. Beyond that, we can do so many other things. As we learn, as we move from quarter 1 to quarter 2, quarter 3, we know what our customers are interested in, and then we give them that through the same system.
Great job, guys.
Thank you.
All right, guys, so repeat after me. Bank you, you bank me, we bank I. No? No takers? Okay, sure. My own. Okay, so we're the pitches. I hope you all enjoyed that. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to have the judges deliberate. I'm sure it's gonna be a tough decision. I'm trying to read your faces. I can't tell. Now, these are the criteria they're going to use to pick the winner. There are about 7 of them. So looking at the value proposition, why does this matter? What problem is it solving for people? The customer market, who is going to use this? Are there enough of them to make this scalable? The business model, is this defensively a revenue generating approach to providing this service? Social impact, as I mentioned, we care about financial inclusion. So thinking about, is this really going to help people who have so far struggled to gain access to financial services, get that access? Industry innovation, how cool is this idea? How new is it? Have you ever seen something like this before? Team, do the people have the skill sets necessary to actually take this all the way? And finally, pitch effectiveness. When they were up here, were you completely enamored by them and taken by their pitch? Did they sound believable, like they knew what they were doing and will be able to bring this vision to life? So while the judges deliberate, what I'm actually gonna have you all do is scan this QR code to vote. So we're gonna have, as I said earlier, 2 different decisions will be made today. Only one carries $100,000. So you all are going to scan this QR code. Cool fact, if you have a Samsung S9 or above, or an iPhone, your camera can read QR codes. So all you have to do is open your camera, don't even snap, don't take the photo. Just focus it on this QR code, and it'll take you to a link where you can vote for your favorite company, okay? So, okay, I see all the cameras coming up. So you guys do that, and I'm gonna let the judges deliberate while you do that. Let me check something. Okay, good. For those of you who do not have QR-enabled cameras, please go to this website and vote for your favorite company, all right? So I will be with you shortly. Let's let the judges deliberate, okay?
Can we go to another room or section?
The fact of the matter is that people want to participate in financial transactions in an orderly, safe, and reliable, easy to use, cheap, sustainable manner.
How do we make sure that pricing is fair and competitive? As regulators, we see innovation, and it is good, but it must be responsible, it must be inclusive, and it must be held accountable.
The whole infrastructure and ecosystem is as strong as the weakest link. And so standards in terms of IT security, cyber security knowledge and prevention need not be held hostage in any institution. It needs to be shared, and we really need to work as a team. Of the matter is that people want to participate in financial transactions in an orderly, safe, and reliable, easy to use, cheap, sustainable manner.
How do we make sure that pricing is fair and competitive? As regulators, we see innovation, and it is good, but it must be responsible, it must be inclusive, and it must be held accountable.
The whole infrastructure and ecosystem is as strong as the weakest link. And so standards in terms of IT security, cyber security knowledge and prevention need not be held hostage in any institution. It needs to be shared, and we really need to work as a team. The fact of the matter is that people want to participate in financial transactions in an orderly, safe, and reliable, easy to use, cheap, sustainable manner.
How do we make sure that pricing is fair and competitive? As regulators, we see innovation, and it is good, but it must be responsible, it must be inclusive, and it must be held accountable.
The whole infrastructure and ecosystem is as strong as the weakest link. And so standards in terms of IT security, cyber security knowledge and prevention need not be held hostage in any institution. It needs to be shared, and we really need to work as a team. The fact of the matter is that people want to participate in financial transactions in an orderly, safe, and reliable, easy to use, cheap, sustainable manner.
How do we make sure that pricing is fair and competitive? As regulators, we see innovation, and it is good, but it must be responsible, it must be inclusive, and it must be held accountable.
The whole infrastructure ecosystem is as strong as the weakest link. And so standards in terms of IT security, cyber security knowledge and prevention need not be held hostage in any institution. It needs to be shared, and we really need to work as a team. The fact of the matter is that people want to participate in financial transactions in an orderly, safe, and reliable, easy to use, cheap, sustainable manner.
How do we make sure that pricing is fair and competitive? As regulators, we see innovation, and it is good, but it must be responsible, it must be inclusive, and it must be held accountable.
The whole infrastructure and ecosystem is as strong as the weakest link. And so standards in terms of IT security, cyber security knowledge and prevention need not be held hostage in any institution. It needs to be shared, and we really need to work as a team. The fact of the matter is that people want to participate in financial transactions in an orderly, safe, and reliable, easy to use, cheap, sustainable manner.
How do we make sure that pricing is fair and competitive? As regulators, we see innovation, and it is good, but it must be responsible, it must be inclusive, and it must be held accountable.
The whole infrastructure and ecosystem is as strong as the weakest link. And so standards in terms of IT security, cyber security knowledge and prevention need not be held hostage in any institution. It needs to be shared, and we really need to work as a team. The fact of the matter is that people want to participate in financial transactions in an orderly, safe, and reliable, easy to use, cheap, sustainable manner.
How do we make sure that pricing is fair and competitive? As regulators, we see innovation, and it is good, but it must be responsible, it must be inclusive, and it must be held accountable.
The whole infrastructure and ecosystem is as strong as the weakest link. And so standards in terms of IT security, cyber security knowledge and prevention need not be held hostage in any institution. It needs to be shared, and we really need to work as a team.
We have seen the venture capital investment in fintech triple from 13 billion in 2017 to 39 billion in 2018.
We can now set our sights on strengthening more of the rungs on the investment ladder and filling in more of the spaces in the ecosystem.
Fintech makes the financial system more accessible, makes it more democratic, and therefore it's a good system of inclusion and social cohesion.
Many times does not have to be in cash. Investment can...
First, I'm going to announce the People's Choice, and then I will announce the runner-up and the winner. Before I do that, I want to say thank you to all the company builders. This has easily been one of the most meaningful experiences of my life. It's been such a pleasure to meet every single one of you, and I am happy to continue to advise/emotionally abuse you forever, because you all are going to be incredibly successful. I would also like to thank the organizers of Fintech, Nigeria Fintech Week. You all have been exceedingly patient and attentive. It's been a joy working with you all. And I'd like to thank the judges. I really enjoyed listening to the deliberation. Really, guys, this was tough. I had to basically force them to make a decision. And so that means at least that all of you were doing something right. Okay, so let's get started. The People's Choice, coming in by a very large margin. The crowd has spoken, over 500 votes and still counting. But drum roll, please. Can I get a crowd drum roll? Oh, Flex Finance. Okay, choice of the people. You can just do a dance back there. Great. All right. Good job, Yemi. Okay, and now, where's the check, guys? Byron. Okay. Okay, so time for the big announcement. So in second place, the judges picked this company because they found the model to be very disruptive. While for everyone, the judges have both the things they like about them and the things that could be improved. I actually encourage you all to talk to them after to get the feedback. They found this company to be very disruptive. So second place, we have Team Bankai. You guys come on. Samson, Olamide, and then, thank you guys. You're okay? They're coming. Yeah, come up and take a photo. They're just taking their time. Okay. Do you guys do the judges?
Hi guys. So Microtraction will be taking a second look at the second and third place company. So that's Bankai and another one. So yeah.
Did you guys hear that? So yeah, so Microtraction is going to be taking another look at Bankai and another team, which you'll find out after, because now we're going to announce the first place winner. We have a really large check, because what is a prize without a really large check? The stars aligned, and the first place winner is also Flex Finance.
Destiny, I have waited patiently. I have vision, though I believe. I know I can count on me. So stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up, stand up, stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up. Stand up, stand up for the champions, for the champions. Stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. All right. Here we go. It's getting
All right, guys, I successfully negotiated a space on their team. I am now officially part of Team Flex. Thank you, judges. You all did a great job, okay? Yeah. So yeah, Team Flex, 36 million. Congratulations. And the other team that Microtraction is interested in taking a second look at is Toju. Toju and Bankai. Chase down Yele. Wait, but yes, all the judges were very impressed with everyone. So chase all of them down. All right. So thank you all. Yeah.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, can I please get a round of applause for that company, Flex? My goodness. And Flex did not have to go sit down in a house for 90 days and embarrass themselves on national television, but they still got 36 million naira. And the frank reality is this company could very well have a significant social impact on a lot of Africa's small and medium enterprises that can now flex their muscles by knowing where their money goes to. Yes, indeed, it's a beautiful day. Can we get a round of applause once again for Flex? And yes, indeed, that was Demo Day, startup pitches by Axion Venture Labs Company Builder. It is indeed one of the most exciting parts of this year's National Fintech Conference, which is a part of the Nigeria Fintech Week. I know that the room is agog and everyone is super stoked for Flex and looking forward to seeing how Flex can indeed contribute as a strong and excellent fintech company to Nigeria and Africa's economy by deepening inclusion and whatnot. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you perhaps another 30 seconds or so to mingle and congratulate the winners and congratulate yourselves for being part of history. But the reality is, the show must go on. We have just one last item on the agenda, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. One final item. And it's perhaps the most important item of all. Ladies and gentlemen. Can I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to please settle down for the roundup, the closing summary of the National Fintech Conference.